If your mind and your body and your spirit aren't aligned, you could be saying all the right things, but it's not going to make a difference.
The other thing that I've been researching a lot recently has been how we expect judgment before it ever happens.
One of them is to be seen and heard. That's a real basic human need that we have. The best players in the world have coaches that see what they cannot see and help them adjust.
Been doing a lot of research on the neuroscience of how even one comment can affect your neural pathways and how our body and our brains just always want what's familiar.
One of the things I realize is that people are just people. The high-level people that I've worked with and you've worked with, they have some of the same fears that anybody has.
Welcome to Done Pretending, the podcast where healing meets authentic living. I am your host, Susan Houston, storyteller, mentor, and believer in the power of truth to set us free. This is your sanctuary for the soul, a safe space where we peel back the layers of judgment and fear to uncover the beauty of living real. Each week, you'll hear stories of courage, resilience, and transformation that remind you it's never too late to become who you were created to be.
Welcome back to our another episode of Done Pretending, where we learn how to be ourselves, be our true selves, find our true voice, and stop pretending that everything is fine. I am so excited today to have someone on that I have just become fast friends with. Her name is Faith Rumer. She's a speaker, a coach, a singer-songwriter, which we might have to hear a little bit about that, best-selling author of Truly Be Seen and Heard. She helps leaders and entrepreneurs and creatives stop performing and start expressing their authentic voices, which is exactly what we talk about every week. She is the founder of Raising Your Impact, and her work centers on emotional empowerment, motivating dynamic presence, and real connection. We learn to communicate confidence and show it fully as we should. She's been at this for over 25 years and guided global Academy award-winning performers, high-impact creatives, and those just starting out to empower their emotions and communicate powerfully. So welcome in, Faith. I'm so excited to have you join us today.
Thank you, Susan. I am thrilled to be here. And when you express what this podcast is about, I was like, oh, we're so in alignment.
We are. And I think that's why we connected so fast is both in shared experiences, but really we see the need right now for people to find their true voice, and stop shrinking who they really are.
Absolutely. I was saying that we are what I would call we're in an epidemic of people not feeling truly seen and heard, which is why I wrote that book, is because people were feeling all over and over and over again. I would talk to people. So I just don't feel seen and heard at work. I don't feel seen and heard at home. I don't feel seen and heard by my spouse or my friends or society.
Did you experience that as well? Because my purpose, the way that I came about doing this was I went through that myself.
Yeah.
And it took, I'm in my second half of my 50s. It took me a long time to recognize that.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we're not alone. I think so many people experience this. When I was a child, I was taught to be quiet, to not, and what my mom told me was, it's not nice to show off.
Yes. I heard that often.
Don't show off. And I even it was my 6th birthday. The story I always tell is that I came down in my new pink dress and we didn't have a lot of money in my family. So I was really proud of this dress. And I stopped at the landing of the stairs and went, ta-da! A little 6-year-old going, ta-da! And my mom looks up at me and she says, honey, it's not nice to show off.
Wow.
Now, she wasn't trying to be mean to me. She loved me, but she was trying to protect me based on what she believed how women need to be quiet, or even people in general, that showing off, you were not going to be liked.
Right. So we learn to shrink.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I've been researching a lot recently has been how we expect judgment before it ever happens. And that's carried with us for the rest of our lives. And then for me, as I'm sure for you, my approval in my family was all performance based. So it was, I may have gotten 5 A's, but because I got 1 B+, the comment wasn't like, hey, you did a really good job. It was, oh, you could have done better than that.
Yeah, high performers. Yeah, high performers, and nothing ever feels like it's quite enough. I feel like I was trying to get approval. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I graduated second in my class in high school, and it wasn't for me. That pursuit wasn't really about trying to get approval for me, as I loved learning, but the whole grade thing was about, like, did you get all A's?
Yeah.
And there were times where if I didn't get an A, I felt there was something wrong.
Mm-hmm. And I think we were our harshest critic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we still are. That's our work. When I work with people, we work on a mind, body, spirit approach to be able to really, accept who you are. What's your real, genuine strength? No one has to be that big personality unless that feels good to you.
Right. Right.
It's,
It's interesting. Over the last year, I've had people really helping me drill down on my authentic self. And many
yeah.
times they would ask me, what is it that you want? You know, and I would say, well, I think I'm meant to do this. And they're like, that's not what I asked you. What do you want? And it took me months to be able to answer that genuinely because I had never allowed myself to consider what I truly wanted. It was always based on what anybody else needed or what I thought, I thought they would react.
Yeah, that's my first thing I do whenever I work with anyone, and even myself. I do a lot of this work. Get clarity every year. Like, what do I really want right now? I teach actors, and I've been teaching acting for a long time. And one of the things we look at is what does the character need in the scene? What do they need for the script? What's driving them? And
Mhm.
what I've learned that there are some basic human needs that we all have. And one of them is to be seen and heard. That's why I wrote the book too. That's a real basic human need that we have. And it's about being seen and heard from the most genuine, authentic self, not by something we're making up. Many people are speaking from that surface self. They're rushing around, they're performing or trying to get it right. Yeah. But when you're grounded, right, and you're authentic and present, people feel you.
I think you're absolutely right. But that takes practice, doesn't it?
You know what? It takes practice and guidance. I don't think it's
Mm.
something that you can do all on your own. And I should take that back. If you're the type of person that, would record yourself and video yourself and record yourself and watch yourself and make adjustments and do those kinds of things, you probably could learn to do it on your own. Even though I had great singing teachers, one of the things that I did as a singer was I would listen to other singers and I would imitate what they were doing, just minute little things. And I taught myself how to sing like Aretha Franklin or to sing like a rock singer or so that I could incorporate all of that. I was really driven to do that, but most people are not. Other things in my life I don't spend that kind of time for. And I think watching ourselves and watching those video back and trying to adjust things and listening to ourselves, it's really hard because we're right in the middle of critiquing.
Well,
Like,
and we're our worst critic.
yeah, right. So we get somebody else to help us with that. It's athletes do this all the time. They get a coach.
It's true.
The best players in the world have coaches that see what they cannot see and help them adjust.
Hmm. Hmm. And not only physical coaches, but mind coaches and
Yeah.
nutritionists and things like that.
Huge mindset.
Yeah.
The emotional world. I have a class coming up, and we were going to talk about that too. It's Find and Empower Your Emotions. And it's an 8-week class that goes through all of the emotions that what happens is when we don't express an emotion, it stays in our body. Because what happens is we have a thought, the brain releases a chemical. It's either those feel good chemicals or those chemicals that don't feel so good. And they get released into our body, into our endocrine system, and then stay in parts of our body. And then if we don't express that uncomfortable feeling, if it's uncomfortable, even a big feeling, a nice joyous feeling, the uncomfortable ones stay in our body and they clog up the flow of energy, if that makes sense. So, for example, and most people would understand this, when we have loss or grief,
Hmm.
we often say, like, my heart's breaking. We feel it right here, don't we? And that's where that energy sits of grief and loss. Love is also here, though, isn't it? Love feels open, loss feels contracted. Now, when people, and this is documented, when people do not, a lot of psychologists will do tests on this, when people do not express their grief,
Mm-hmm.
hold it in here, they cannot move past it. And then they have trouble expressing love and openness and even self-esteem.
Interesting, because it all comes from the same place?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
either a reactionary energy or a responding energy. So do we want to respond to that experience in reaction of grief? Now, there's nothing wrong with going through grief. We have to feel it. Nothing wrong with feeling anger. There are many things that people are feeling angry about today, but if you don't allow yourself to express it, it will come out when you don't want it to,
Very true.
right? So
Do you think that over time it also grows or compounds within us?
I think so. I think that it kind of becomes like, I call it like, here's your energy, it's flowing along. And then you have this thought in a chemical reaction, and the little dam happens. Maybe it's a stick or stone. Then it keeps going. You know how a dam and a river can grow sticks, stones, and pretty soon the water's completely blocked.
Yeah, yeah. That makes such sense.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of research on the neural science of how even one comment can affect your neural pathways and how our body and our brains just always want what's familiar. So if
Right.
that's what you're used to, even though you're trying to think differently or trying to not let things bother you, boy, it seems like sometimes we fight going back.
You can imagine someone who wants to fall in love again, but they have that grief. And grief counselors are going to encourage you to move through the grief, to feel it, because that's important.
I've always heard about the stages of grief. Is
Mhm.
that what you have to work through?
Well, I'm not a grief counselor, but I think that's what people do go through.
Okay.
What I do is I help people use their voice and their body and their energy to actually find that emotional, I'm going to call it energy again,
Mhm.
emotion, energy, vibration, and work with it and express it and then let it go and free it up. It's, if you really think about it, Susan, it's just like little kids, little toddlers can feel angry. They express it and they let it go. And then the next minute they're happy.
It's true. They don't hang on to things.
But how often when we have the toddler and we say, "Don't get angry," that my mom never wanted me to be sad or angry.
Right.
And then, like, that little toddler just holds it in, and pretty soon they're gonna explode,
Yeah.
right? But if they have a chance just to, like, get it out, the next minute, they forgot the whole thing.
It's interesting being a caregiver for my mom. Yesterday was a hard day, and I came back to my sanctuary, which is my bedroom, and I was angry. I was frustrated. And I thought, oh, you know, I should be grateful. I should be this. I should be that. And finally, I just sat here and like threw some things around my bed. And I felt so much better because it's like I really was frustrated.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely, and so you were allowed to get that energy moving, to
Yes.
acknowledge it. That all of the energy, all of the emotional energy in our body is a sign for us. It's there to tell us what's going on in our life, what's important to us,
Hmm.
what's happening to us. So when we get angry, or we feel, and I always like to say feel angry, that I'm not an angry person, I just feel angry sometimes. So if I feel angry, there's a reason for it in my life. Why am I feeling angry?
Yeah.
Because this feels like an injustice, or because I feel that it's too much for me to carry, I feel, or in the case of caregiver, because I've been through that with my mom too, it feels like frustrating that she's like that now, or that I can't communicate with her, or that she's too much for me to deal with and I don't know how to change it.
Hmm. All of the above.
Right. But if I stay in that, if I, what I mean by staying in that, if it just bubbles underneath the surface, it starts to turn into resentment. I start to shut down my heart, right, to her or to the situation instead of acknowledging, yeah, I'm angry right now. I feel angry.
Yeah.
For a reason. This is not fair. Express it, let it out. Okay, now from a place of empowerment, what can I do?
Hmm.
How can I see this? From a place of open mindedness, how can I see this?
Wow.
And I like using voice. I'm a voice person. So, you know how it is. When we sing or how much that creates emotional response.
Yeah, talk about your singing. What have you done with that?
Oh, okay. Well, I was a professional singer. I still am, but for many years I made my living as a singer. I sang all over. I did some movie and television singing for
Mm.
studio work. I sang the national anthem for the Chicago White Sox in front of 50,000 people,
Wow.
and then did a lot of background singing for people. And I write songs and still perform and studied a lot to do that. I've coached Grammy-winning singers and performers.
Wow. Wow.
So it's my joy. I knew I wanted to be a musician since I was 10 years old,
Hmm.
and I started playing guitar when I was 10, and my guitar teacher wanted me to sing, but I wasn't really a singer at 10 years old, and I was kind of scared to sing, but he made me do it anyways. So at that time, I probably sang and played every Beatles song that was ever written, 'cause he was a Beatle freak. So I sang all these songs, and I got to love to sing. I started to really love it, and then I ended up, making that my choice for my living.
Which it all ties in together because if you think about the performers that we do love to watch,
Mhm.
you see their emotion. They're not,
Yeah, yeah.
or at least I always like to think that their true self is coming through.
Well, and I so agree with you. And even watching speakers or, motivational coaches or inspirational coaches, you can tell when they're emotionally connected to what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And that is what really drives it home for all of us. I think that, being seen and heard means that who you are is landing. It's not just the words you're saying. Because if your mind and your body and your spirit aren't aligned, you could be saying all the right things, but it's not going to make a difference.
It doesn't. It doesn't. I'm learning so much about mind, body, and spirit being aligned in the research that I'm doing, but it's been documented for years that I think the spoken word has a 5% impact. The body, the gestures have a certain percentage, but really it's your
The
body and your emotions, right?
the percentages there are 7% is the words,
Yeah. Okay.
um, 55% is your body and gestures, and 38% is your voice.
Interesting. Wow.
Vocal expression, not, how you say things, you could say, "Well," and it's that thing, Susan, like someone can answer the phone and they go you say, "Hi, how you doing?" And they go, "I'm okay." And you're like, "What's going on?"
Right.
And
Right.
you can tell instantly
Yep.
happening.
Yeah, and that's very true both in business and in your personal life.
Absolutely.
Do you work with business leaders as well?
I do. I have several CEOs and CFOs of like billion-dollar companies that I work with on their presentations.
Mhm.
And so they have to be able to present in a way that not only gives the information that they want to give in a very clear and way, but to be able to really motivate the people they're speaking to because they have these big presentations. I had somebody who was a CFO and he had some numbers that weren't so great. He had to present in this presentation, and he was concerned about how it was landing. And as we were going through his talk, in the beginning, he started to talk about how the company had they had a new message, they had a new, what would you call it?
Like a
Uh,
rebranding
or even rebranding, but their whole feeling about what they were doing and a purpose, a new purpose, that's the word,
okay.
right? And I said, "Tell me about that." And he got so excited about it. And I said, "This is your North Star. This is how you want to present the good and the not so good news."
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
we worked through it that way, and boy, did it change.
It does, and I have watched business leaders, both in my experience in the corporate world and people that I've coached as well, hesitate. And when they're speaking and talking about something, you can sense when they're all in, and it makes you want to be all in and support them. But
Mhm.
when they hesitate, and what I've learned is a lot of times they're looking for approval or they're scanning for disapproval instead of really believing in what they're saying And the team will pick up on that. And 9 times out of 10, the team may go through the motions of being behind you, but they're not fully supportive. They're not 100% in.
Yeah, it really comes down to what it means to be a leader, not
Mhm.
only a leader of your team, a leader of our own business if you're an entrepreneur,
Yes.
and then even a leader in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, how long ago did you write your book? Show your book.
Oh, yes, let me write. There it is.
There you go.
Turn
Yeah.
to be seen and heard. Okay.
Highly recommend this book, you guys.
Wonderful. It's a will take you through the 4 stages of becoming an awesome communicator, and those stages are, first of all, you have to align your mindset. That's the very first stage.
Hmm.
And then you have to power up your presence. So that has to do with presence and voice. And then unleash your greatness. What is it about you? What's genuine and interesting? And what is it that you want? What are your values? How do you want to go out in the world and represent the world yourself? And then the 4th stage is to really engage and connect and inspire. And that's, how do you really connect with another human being? What are some of the things that you can do to have that authentic connection? So, to become an awesome communicator, my formula is we need dynamic presence plus genuine connection.
I love that.
Yeah. And some people are really good at dynamic presence. You've met them. They walk into a room and they own that room. And it's all about them. And they all want to talk about who they are, what they do, and all of that kind of thing. And they have a very big ego and a very big presence. And they can create, well, I don't, what happens is they rise to a certain standard, a certain level, but they never really connect with people. So they're not usually great leaders. They become more gurus than leaders.
And they get a certain amount of people who will follow them because they think that they can they can rise to that level. But I've also seen the opposite, where they can walk in a room, command the room just
Yeah.
from their energy. But the difference is that they go out of their way to connect with everyone that they can
Mhm.
in the room. And I have a good friend who I met in a former life when I had my own business and doing trade shows. And everyone that she would connect with, whether it be other vendors or clients of hers, customers of hers, it was genuine. And I learned so much from her because I was new to having to sell. I had never been in that role before. And I thought I knew what selling was. And it really, selling is connection.
Yeah. Wow. So true. Everything is connection.
Mhm.
Though, and here's the deal too. Some people are so heart-centered and connected, but they've never developed their dynamic presence. They're afraid to ask for what they want. They walk into a room and they immediately want to help everybody, but they don't know how to become that leader that people will follow as well.
Right.
Having both of those things, like you said, is the key.
And discernment is such an important part of that, don't you think? I think it's something that I'm learning now too is, well, I think what I've experienced is I'm connecting with so many people who really want my energy or my genuineness, but maybe they don't have it on their side. And I think that's why you and I were able to connect so easily, is because we do think alike. We are genuine with each other. And what I've had to learn is it's just not worth it for me to put my time towards projects that aren't aligned with that, because
That's
it
such
just won't land.
Yeah, and it's not good for either party. If you're
No.
not aligned with them, then you can't really help that, and it's not gonna help you, and we only have so much time
Oh my
to
goodness, yes.
as business owners, we totally know that. But we have so much time, and I truly believe that we're here to offer our gifts and talents to this world, to immerse ourselves in what it is that turns us on, that we lights us up, and to really allow ourselves to become, but like not just immerse ourselves in it, but be as good as we can in that.
Yes.
To absolutely allow ourselves to rise to an excellence, not perfection, but the excellence that we can rise to, and that
Mhm.
offer that to the world.
That is really what does light me up. Is it was interesting as I've been going through the podcasts episodes and trying to figure out my messages for different events that I've had to do. I went and did one speaking engagement to business owners, and the curator of the event asked me to tailor it on a certain theme. But what I finally realized afterwards, because it was good, everybody said, "Oh, you looked great, dynamic speaker. We really enjoyed speaking with you." Zero engagement after that. And it was because I couldn't land it because I didn't feel it. Everything that you've been saying. And
Yeah.
so I've also learned to stay in my lane, as someone has taught me. And not that there's many side streets on my lane, there are, but not to try and force myself. Just because I'm a good speaker doesn't mean that any message I give will be positive or will make an impact.
Right, right. It's possible that you could, really practice something and get out there and make it and sell it.
And I'm not trying to act, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to put on a performance. So,
Right, right. That for me, one of the things I had to come to terms with is that I have come up in the entertainment business. And even sometimes I would say, well, you weren't in the corporate world, but I worked with people in the entertainment business. That was the corporate world.
oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so when I worked with, Academy Award winning directors and I had to deliver for them, the coaching that they needed for their actors in a film, it was the same thing as delivering on any place in the corporate world.
100%. It's a different type of business.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And it's still I had to had my confidence, I had to know what I was doing, and I also had to think on my feet a lot. So they
Mm.
have, like, "You gotta get this done in 2 weeks." "We've got 2 weeks," right? "We have 2 weeks." "Okay, let's go," right?
Yeah, those project deadlines. Whoop.
Yeah, and, it was fun, it taught me a lot. I One of the things I realize is that people are just people,
Yes.
that no matter where we are, the high level people that I've worked with and you've worked with, they have some of the same fears that anybody has.
Absolutely. And it takes a lot for them to feel safe enough to express those.
Yeah.
And that's what I really enjoy when I work with higher level individuals. And even in my corporate life, we worked with high level business owners and family owned businesses,
Mhm.
but they had this persona that they put on for everybody else. But when you got to see their true, genuine self, it just was magic.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
you can get to that, you can help them help themselves through anything.
Mhm, 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 mhm. I worked with an Academy Award-winning actress, and, we were working on she needed an accent for a film,
Mm.
and it was really hard. She's French, so she needed an American accent, and there was a moment where she just broke down and cried. She was like she was there, she goes, "I don't know if I can do this." I said, "You look at me. You can do this, right? I'm here.
Mhm.
I'm here to help you. We will get through this." And she did an amazing job.
Aw.
Yeah, she did. She got great responses from it, but that's what we need sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Someone to believe in us.
Believe in us and to take the load off of us sometimes.
Mm.
Because don't you think we're all just trying to do this on our own? It feels like that so much.
I think that is such a profound statement, Faith. I think that so many of us have had to do it on our own for so
Yeah.
long. You
Mhm.
know, it could be parenting, it could be in your business world, it could be caregiving. It's just something that we do. And I think, especially for women too.
Yeah.
So being able to take that load off a little bit is so freeing.
Mhm, mhm. I think that's why community is so important.
Mhm.
Um, that when we're in isolation, that we tend to diffuse our energy.
Yes. Yes. So fear lives in isolation and grows in isolation.
Yeah.
And I did a podcast about that probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, that even if you just have one connection with somebody, and if you can't do it face to face, you can do it during text, but you have to find someone or a group. I'm working on forming a cohort group where they can be real with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the beauty of the class that I do, the 8-week class, is that we have everybody in there gets to interact with each other,
Hmm.
working, and what I do is I throw them into little scenes and monologues that they actually get to express these feelings.
Oh,
Um,
fun.
it is fun. I had a Olympic medalist, hockey. He played hockey, and he was also a high-level life coach and business coach, and he worked with mindset a lot. And he said when he took the class, it was one of the most enlightening and fun things he had ever done because he got a chance to play with those emotions and free them up and experience them without having to go down into a place that was hard, like that deep cavern that we can't get out of.
I love that. How fun. Tell me about this course. How do people sign up for this?
Oh, okay. Well, they can go. I can give you I guess the link is probably the easiest thing.
Yep.
It's courses.raisingyourinpact.com/find your feelings hyphen Jan 26. It's long.
And I will be sure and put all of this in the show notes so
Right.
everybody can
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah, and they can also email me at support@raisingyourinpact.com, and I can send them into that link. I'm doing some webinars coming up that will be that they can experience a little bit about that. Look for that link for that course, and it's limited. I'm only taking 12 people in the course because I wanna really work with people, individually, guide them.
I love that. All of my groups, I really limit the amount of people who are in it, usually 10 to 12 as well, because I
Yeah.
just think it's more intimate and you can be more authentic that way.
Well, and this is deep work, and this is work that people need to be seen and heard in this work as well, and feel empowered. By the end of the course, everyone feels like they don't want it to end.
That's exactly what you want.
Yeah.
Well, Faith, I have loved having you on the podcast today. Thank you
Oh,
so much for your wisdom. This course sounds amazing. Like I told you before, I'm looking into that for myself. It's more
ah,
a matter of scheduling than anything. But I will put all of the show notes,
good.
all of your links into where people can find them. And you can always respond to me, friends, from Spotify or Apple or YouTube, and I can give you any information that you need. I also wanted to let you all know that I have a new website that's finally live. It's thesusanhouston.com. So, as some of you know, that's been battle that I've been battling for a while. Why? I don't know why it was so difficult, but it was. And it will be going through a lot of changes as well, but it is live. So you can always reach me at thesusanhouston.com. Thank you again, Faith. And I very much appreciate everything that you've shared with us.
It's been a delight.
That's great. We'll see you next time, everyone.
Thank you for joining me on Done Pretending, where healing meets authentic living. If today's conversation moved you, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't yet, be sure to follow the show and leave a review. Your words help this message reach more hearts around the world. Remember, you are seen, you are loved, and your story has the power to set others free.